chapter 8. In chapter 7, we see how the boys they started to disintegrate from each other, how Jack started to gain power over Ralph, how he always insists on the idea that Ralph is so coward and he is not to be a leader. He wanted to take the power from him. We stopped in the last part of chapter 7 that they went to the mountain while it was dark, and Jack was the first one who climbed the mountain. Then he saw the figure of the dead pilot. He thought that it was the beast. He panicked and he rushed down to tell Ralph and Roger that they had seen the beast. Now you will see the reaction of the boys. At the very beginning, all the boys they panicked, and of course they went back to Piggy, and Piggy could not believe that they had seen the monster itself, but he has no other option. Jack, for the first time, he took the conch shell, and he blew it. So we see here that he wanted to establish himself as a leader. Then he talked about the monster which he had seen, and he said that Ralph is a coward, and he wanted the boys to vote against Ralph, not to be leader anymore. But the boys didn't utter a word. Accordingly, he became very angry and he left the group. And from now, we will see that he split from the group and he is going to organize his own tribe. Okay? So this is the very beginning of the chapter. Of course, Piggy was very happy because Jack had left them. He didn't want any Jack by any means. And Simon cannot comprehend what is going to happen between them, but he didn't want any discrepancy between the boys. So let's read this part. I need Habiba, would you read, please?
Okay. Piggy looked up miserably from the down pale beach to the dark mountain. Are you sure, really sure? I mean, I told you a dozen times now, said Ralph. We saw it. Do you think we're safe down here? How the hell should I know? Ralph jerked away from him and walked a few paces along the beach. Jack was kneeling and drawing a circular pattern in the sand with his forefinger. Piggy's voice came to them hushed. Are you sure, really? Go up and see, said Jack. Con- Contem-
Contemptuously.
and good radiance. No fear. The beast had teeth, said Ralph, and big black eyes. He shuddered violently. Piggy took off his one round of glass and polished the surface. What we going to do?
Okay, so now they are thinking what they are going to do regarding this monster, how they are going to manage the matter, how they are going to hunt it. Okay, continue, my dear.
Ralph turned toward the platform. The conch glimmered among the trees, a white blob against the place where the sun would rise. He pushed back his mop. I don't know. He remembered the panic flight down the mountainside. I don't think we'd ever fight a thing that size. Honestly, we talk, but we wouldn't fight a tiger. We'd hide. Even Jack would hide. Jack still looked at the sand. What about my hunters? Simon came stealing out of the shadows by the shelters. Ralph ignored Jack's question. He pointed to the touch of yellow above the sea. As long as there's light, we are brave enough. But then, and now that and now that thing squats by the fire as though it didn't want us to be rescued. He was twisting his hands now, unconsciously. His voice rose. So we can't have a single fire. We are beaten. A point of golden appeared above the sea, and at once all the sky lightened. What about my hunters? Boys armed with sticks. Jack got to his feet. His face was red as he marched away. Piggy put on his one glass and looked at Ralph. Now you done it? You've been rude about his hunters. Oh, shut up.
Okay, just hold on here. So what is going up here now? Jack, he grabbed the conch, and this is the first time to blow the conch as if he's the leader, because this was the job of Ralph. Here he talks about the monster, what we are going to do regarding the monster, and the fire. They have a problem with the fire because they used to lead the fire up the mountain, but now they are afraid to climb there. So they are going to think, or Piggy is going to suggest on Simon that they would have the fire on the beach itself. Then here he talked about his hunters. He said, "What about my hunters, boys armed with sticks only?" Then he again bullied Piggy when he says, "Oh, shut up." Is that part clear? Guys,
عاوز صوت تاني يا ميس.
Yes.
okay. طيب. أحمد وليد. Thank you, Howard.
أيوة يا مس.
Okay, would you read this part, please?
In أول the sound
Yes.
of the inexpertly blown conch interrupted them, as though he were surrounding the rising sun. Jack went on blowing till the shelters were astir, and the hunters crept to the platform, and the little ones whimpered as now they so frequently did. Ralph rose obediently, and Piggy and they went to the platform. "Talk," said Ralph bitterly. "Talk, talk, talk." He took the conch from Jack. "This meeting," Jack interrupted him, "I called it. If you hadn't called it, I should have. You just blew the conch." "Well, isn't that calling it?" "Oh, take it, go on, talk."
So we see here the
Ralph,
conflict. We see here the conflict between Jack and Ralph. Jack took the conch and blew it. Then Ralph wanted to regain his power. He says this meeting and he wanted to start to talk to address the boys. Then Jack interrupted him, said, "I am the one who called for the meeting, not you." So he asked him, Ralph, "Okay, Jack, just go on, talk. Go on, my dear."
Ralph thrust the conch into Jack's arm and sat down on the trunk. "I've called an assembly," said Jack, "because of a lot of things. First, now we've seen the beast. We crawled up. We were only a few feet away. The beast sat up and looked at us. I don't know what it does. Don't even know what it is. The beast comes out of the sea, out of the dark. Trees. Quiet," shouted Jack. "You listen. The beast is sitting up there, whatever it is."
Okay, so pay attention that Jack is playing on the theme of fear. He wanted to implement fear inside all of the boys in order to control them. Unlike Ralph, Ralph didn't try even to make them afraid of the monster before. And he always said that there is no monster and so on. But Jack plays on that part because when you have some people who are afraid, it is easily for you to control their ideas and to control their minds. Is that point clear?
تمام.
Okay, thank you, Ahmed.
Yes.
Okay, Saja, would you read, please?
I will perhaps.
Yes.
Perhaps it's waiting, hunting, yes, hunting. Hunting, said Jack. He remembered his age-old tremors in the forest. Yes, the beast is a hunter. Only shut up. The next thing is that we couldn't kill it. And the next is that Ralph said my hunters are no good. I never said that. I've got the conch. Ralph thinks they're cowards, running away from the boar and the beast, and that's not all.
Okay, so
There was
here, just hold on. So here, Jack wanted to make the boys become against Ralph. He said that Ralph is mocking you. He says previously that you are not good hunters. So what is he's doing now? He is trying to make the boys feel hatred towards Ralph, and they would say, no, we do not need Ralph anymore to be our leader. Continue, my dear.
There was a kind of sigh on the platform as if everyone knew what was coming. Jack's voice went up, tremulous yet determined. pushing against the uncooperative silence. He's like Piggy. He says things like Piggy. He isn't a proper chef.
Chief.
Jack clutched the conch to him. He's a coward himself. For a moment he paused and then went on. On top, when Roger and me went on, he stayed back. I went too. After, the two boys glared at each other through screens of hair. I went on too, said Ralph. Then I ran away. So would you. Call me a coward then. Jack returned to the hunters.
Okay, so what happened here now? Jack says that Rolf previously condemned you for being hunters who are cowards. Now he is the one who is a coward. And he says that I was the only one who climbed the mountain and I was the only one who had seen the monster. Then Rolf says, no, but I climbed with you also and with Roger. Then he says, it's okay, you want to call me a coward? Okay, then call me a coward. Now, in the following page, we will see Jack that he will ask the other boys to say that Ralph is no longer our leader, but they will not do that. So up till now, everything is clear?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so, okay, Jana, no problem, my dear. Thank you, Saja.
Look.
Okay. Hagar, would you read, please?
من أول فين يا مس؟
He's not a hunter.
He's not a hunter. He had never have got us meat. He isn't a perfect, and we don't know anything about him. He just gives orders and expects people to obey for nothing. All this talk, shouted Rolf. Talk, talk. Who wanted it? Who called the meeting? Jack turned red in the face. His chin sunk back. He glowered up under eyebrows. All right then, he said in tones of deep meaning and menace. All right. He held the conch against his chest with one hand and stabled the air with the index finger. Who thinks Rolf oughtn't to be chef? He looked expectantly at the boys ranged round, who had frozen. Under the palms palms there was deadly silence. Hands up, said Jack strongly. Whoever wants Ralph to be to Ralph not to be the chef. The silence continued, breathless and heavy and full of shame. Slowly, the red drained from Jack's cheeks, then came back with the painful rush. He licked his lips and turned his head at the angle so that his gaze avoided the embarrassment of linking with another's eyes. How many think? His voice tailed off. The hand that held the conch shook. He cleared his throat and spoke loudly. All right then.
Okay, thank you, my dear. So now I need someone to tell me about the conflict between Jack and Rolf in this part which we have covered. What happened during the meeting? This meeting, of course, it is a meeting of criticism, bragging, and boosting. So, Anas, would you tell me?
Miss.
Yes. What happened during this meeting, my dear?
اللي هو اسمه ده رالف اللي هو when Jack blew the conch and they started and هو and then Jack begins to tell the boys that that Ralph isn't worthy to be the leader.
Yes.
And the conflict began to rise, and Jack is trying to offend Ralph, but Ralph is also trying to defend himself from the other boys. What you are saying about it.
Yes, and he said that Jack says, justification that I was the one who climbed the mountain firstly,
Yes.
and he was a coward, he was afraid. Then Ralph defended himself that I climbed the mountain also. Do you believe that this is some kind of political rebellion in a way?
Yes, it's political rebellion
But he, yes.
because all the boys they accepted Ralph as a leader, and they said that they will not be rebellion on him, and he's the first one to break that rule.
Right. And he, even by the end of the meeting here, he asked them to vote that they
For
do
him
not
against
want,
Ralph, yes.
yeah, to vote against Ralph, that no longer he would be their chief. Right. Up till now, any questions? Thank you, Anas. Okay, so let's proceed. Okay, Malak Khalid, can you read, please?
أيوة يا مس غايدة.
Yes, he laid.
ثانية عشان مش شايفة.
Okay.
من أول he laid the conch.
Yes.
Okay. He laid the conch with great care in the grass at his feet. The humiliating tears were running from the corner of each eye. I'm not going to play any longer. Not with you. Most of the boys were looking down now, at the grass or their feet. Jack cleared his throat again. I'm not going to be part of Ralph's lot. He looked along the right-hand logs, numbering the hunters that had been acquired.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going off by myself. He can catch his own pigs. Anyone who wants to hunt when I do can come too.
Hold on, please, Malak. So what happens here? When the boys refused to vote against Ralph, Jack became angry. So he says, "Okay, I'm going to leave you." And as if he leaves them, they will not be able to hunt or to get meat and so on. So he says that I will not be a part of this group, Ralph's group, anymore. I'm going to form my own group. And the ones who would like to join me, let's come and join me. And here he puts for them a word. He says, what? Anyone who wants to hunt when I do can come with me. So he is alluring them or attracting them with the hunting process. Continue, Matt.
حاضر يا مس. هو أنا وقفت فين؟
You will read
He blundered, صح؟
out. Yes.
Okay. He blundered out of the triangle toward the drop to the white sand. Jack! Jack turned and looked back at Rolf. For a moment, he paused and then cried out, high-pitched, enraged. No! He leapt down from the platform and ran along the beach, paying no heed to the steady fall of his tears, and until he dived into the forest, Rolf watched him. Piggy was indignant.
He was happy, of course. He wanted to get rid of Jack.
Okay. I've been talking, Rolf, and you just stood there softly looking at Piggy and not seeing him. Rolf spoke to himself. He'll come back. When the sun goes down, he will come. He looked at...
Okay. Thank you, my dear.
Okay.
So let's continue what Piggy is going to say. Okay, Sif Helmi.
Miss.
Okay, would you read, my dear? Sif, can you hear me, my dear? He's disconnected all of a sudden. Okay, Yahya.
Miss.
Okay, Yahya, would you read, please?
حاضر. أبدأ منين بالظبط؟
From the
من فوق خالص؟
Yes, what? Well, there.
Okay. What? Whether Piggy gave up the attempt to rebuke Ralph. He polished his glass again and went back to his subject. We can do without Jack, Mary do. There's others besides him on this island. But now we really got a beast. Though I can't hardly believe it. We'll need to stay close to the platform. There'll be less need of him and his hunting. So now we can really decide on what's what. There's no help, Piggy. Nothing to be done. For a while they sat in depressed silence. Then Simon stood up and took the conch from Piggy, who was so astonished that he remained on his feet. Ralph looked up at Simon. Simon, what is it this time? A half sound of jeering ran round the circle and Simon shrank from it. I thought there might be something to do. Something we. Again, the pressure of the assembly took his voice away. He sought for help and sympathy and chose Piggy. He turned half toward him, clutching the conch to his brown chest. I think we ought to climb the mountain. The circle shivered with dread. Simon
Of
broke off
course,
and turned to
here
Piggy.
all the, when he suggested that I think we ought to climb the mountain, all of them shivered. It means that they are trembled with fear. Yes.
The circle shivered with dread. Simon broke off and turned to Piggy, who was looking at him with an expression of derisive incomprehension. What's the good of climbing up to this here beast when Ralph and the others couldn't do nothing? Simon whispered his answer. What else is there to do?
Okay, thank
His
you.
speech.
Thank you. Yahya. So here, the boys are discussing what.
After my comes.
Thank you, Habib. So the boys here, they are just continuing what we are going to do right now, how we are going to manage the fire. As I told you that Piggy will suggest that they will have the fire by the beach, not the mountain. And we'll see also with the coming part the attitude of the other boys, because after the disintegration of this meeting, they will join the tribe of Jack. So, Jana Said. يا حبيبتي. Would you please
احنا وقفنا فين؟
are you okay?
تمام.
There's a problem with your voice?
لا عادي.
Okay. So Simon whispered.
Simon whispered his answer. What else is there to do? His speech made. He allowed Piggy to lift the conch out of his hands. Then he retired and sat as far away from the others as possible. Piggy was speaking now with more assurance and with what, if the circumstances had not been so serious, the others would have recognized as pleasure. I said we could all do without a certain person. Now I saw we got to decide on what can be done, and I think I could tell you what Ralph's going to say next. The most important thing on the island is to smoke, and you can't have no smoke without a fire. Ralph made a restless movement. No, go, Piggy. We've got no fire. That thing sit up there will have to stay here. Piggy lifted the conch as though to add power to his next words. We got no fire on the mountain, but what's wrong with a fire down here? A fire could be built on them rocks, on the sand even. We'd make smoke just the same.
So here,
That's right.
Piggy, as a logical person who has reason, he suggested if we are afraid to climb the mountain because of the monster and we are not able to lit the fire up there, why don't we lit it here on the beach? Yes, ma'am.
That's right, smoke, by the bathing pool. The boys began to babble. Only Piggy could have the intellectual daring to suggest moving the fire from the mountain. So we'll have.
Thank you, John. Okay, so now in this part only we have Piggy who suggested that they would lit the fire by on the beach. Okay. Thank you, my dear. Sarah.
Yes, should I read?
Yes, my
dear. Starting from where he broke off?
Starting from, so we will have.
Okay, so we'll have the fire down here, said Ralph. He looked about him. We can build it just here between the bathing pool and the platform. Of course. He broke off, frowning, thinking the thing out. Unconsciously, tugging at the stub of a nail with his teeth. Of course, the smoke won't show so much, not to be seen so far away. But we needn't go near the others nodded in perfect comprehension. There would be no need to go near. We'll build the fire now. The greatest ideas are the simplest. Now there was something to be done. They worked with passion. Piggy was so full of delight and expanding liberty in Jack's departure,
You
so
see
full
here
of
this
pride.
sentence? You see here this sentence? This is the impact of Jack's departure. He says that Piggy was full of delight. He was very happy and expanding liberty. He felt liberated from the shackles of Jack. Yes.
So full of pride in his contribution to the good of the society that he helped to fetch wood. The wood he fetched was close at hand, a fallen tree on the platform that they did not need for the assembly. Yet to the others, the sanctity of the platform had protected even what was useless there. Then the twins realized they would have a fire near them as a comfort in the night, and this set a few little ones dancing and clapping hands. The wood was not so dry as the fuel they had used on the mountain. Much of it was damply rotten and full of insects that scurried. Logs had to be lifted from the soil with care, or they crumbled into sodden powder.
Okay, thank you. So
You're
here,
welcome.
they are just working on making the fire on the beach. I will have the attendance once more, then we'll continue. Okay. Salah, could you read, please?
Yes, miss.
You read, please, more than
Mo-
this.
More than this, in order to avoid going deep into the forest, the boys worked near at hand on any fallen wood, no matter how tangled with new growth. The skirts of the forest and the sky were familiar, near the conch and the shelters, and sufficiently friendly in daylight. What they might become in darkness, nobody cared to think. They worked therefore with great energy and cheerfulness, though as time crept by there was a suggestion of panic in the energy and hysteria in their cheerfulness. They built a pyramid of leaves and twigs, branches, and logs on the bare sand by the platform. For the first time on the island, Piggy himself removed his one glass, knelt down, and focused the sun on tinder. Soon there was a ceiling of smoke and a bush of yellow flame. The
So
little ones who had
here we see how Piggy was very enthusiastic about lighting the fire on the beach, that he was the first one, or for the first time, that he was the one who took off his glasses and gave it to them in order to lit the fire. Continue.
The little ones, who had seen few fires since the first catastrophe, became wildly excited. They danced and sang, and there was a partyish air about the gathering. At last Ralph stopped work and stood up, smudging the sweat from his face with a dirty forearm. We'll have to have a small fire. This one's too big to keep up. Piggy sat down carefully on the sand and began to polish his glasses. We could experiment. We could find out how to make a small hot fire and then put green branches on to make smoke. Some of them leaves must be better for that than the others. As the fire died down, so did the excitement. The little ones stopped singing and dancing and drifted away towards the sea or the fruit trees.
Okay, thank you, my dear. So, okay, Dana?
Miss Hawa, her internet connection is unstable. She's trying to يعني the voice stopped عندها. She's trying to يعني get back.
Okay, no problem. Aya?
Yes, Miss Kayla.
Yes, would you please, my dear?
مش where did we stop?
Or the shelters, Ralph dropped down in the sand.
Can you tell me which line?
The first line, Ralph dropped. Can you see the
مش
screen, my dear?
yes I can see.
This is the first line, my dear.
مش Ralph dropped down in the sand. We'll have to make a new list of who's to look after the fire. If you can find them. He looked around. Then for the first time he saw how few big guns there were and understood why the work had been so hard. Where's Maurice? Piggy wiped his glass again. I expect no, he wouldn't go into the forest by himself, would he? Ralph jumped up, ran swiftly around the fire, and stood by
مش
Piggy.
غادة،
Yes.
احنا بس عندنا امتحان كمان دقيقة.
You still have 2 minutes, Marwan. Yeah, Malik.
احترم نفسك يا مالك.
Don't repeat it again, يا Malik.
مش غادة اللي بيقول لي احترم نفسك ده كان قاعد بياكل في حصة الاسبانيش.
Malik, do not spoil it. I just 1 minute and I'll finish. يلا. Come on, يا آية.
خلاص انا آسف.
Holding up his hair, but we've got to have a list. There's you and me and Sam and Eric. And he would not look at Piggy, but spoke casually. Where's Bill and Roger? Piggy leaned forward and put a fragment of wood on the fire. Ralph sat down and began to poke little holes in the sand. He was surprised to see that one had a drop of blood by it. He examined his bitten nail closely and watched the little globe of blood that gathered where the quick was gone away.
Okay.
Piggy went on speaking. I seen them stealing off when we was gathering wood. They went that way, the same way as he went himself.
Okay, so here what happens, they started to realize that they were working on the fire. Most of the boys, they went to join Jack. And I'll stop here for today. See you tomorrow, inshallah. I will revise quickly chapter 7 for you, then we'll continue chapter 8. And I wish you the best of luck in your exam and your quiz. Okay? See you. Bye.